I sent my HS into remission. I have an occasional flare, but they don't get to the size they used to. They don't tunnel like it. I'll get like a small, and then I know how to attack it. I slap a hydrocolloidal bandage on it. I double check like the food that I'm eating. I go like strictly anti-inflammatory, and then it goes away quickly. Um, so it's really it's really difficult because I can't say, hey, just stop eating peppers because peppers may not be your thing. But I think that diet and the connection with PCOS is since PCOS is a metabolic syndrome and
Welcome back to PCOS Unfiltered. I'm your host, Lindsie, nurse, health and nutrition coach, and body wisdom guide. Today's conversation is one I know so many women are going to relate to because it's about so much more than a diagnosis. If you've ever been told your symptoms were just PCOS, struggled with chronic pain, unexplained weight gain, infertility, or felt dismissed when you knew something wasn't right, this episode is for you. Today's guest, Jessa, courageously shares her journey through years of painful symptoms, surgeries, endometriosis, hidradenitis suppurativa, or HS, infertility, and ultimately discovering that healing wasn't just about treating one condition. It was about learning to understand her body as a whole. We also dive into topics that don't get enough attention, like medical gaslighting, nervous system regulation, chronic stress, trauma, inflammation, and the importance of becoming your own advocate when you're searching for answers. As always, this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and should not replace individualized medical advice. My hope is that today's conversation reminds you that your body isn't working against you, it's communicating with you. Sometimes it just takes the right support and the courage to keep asking questions to finally hear what it's trying to say. Now let's dive in. Here's my conversation with Jessa. Hello, welcome back to the show and welcome to Jessa. This is going to be, I think, a super special episode because she's probably been in a lot of the shoes of the listeners that we
really,
have, today. So I'm super, super excited for her to share her story. So let's get started. So take us back to, back to the beginning, like what was going on, physically, maybe even emotionally, where did it all start?
yeah, absolutely. So first, I just want to say, like, I'm super grateful for the opportunity to share my story, just because for so many years I felt like I was suffering in silence, and there really was nothing out there for me to be able to find where people were in my situation. So my journey started in my early 20s. It started with all of a sudden I started having really extremely painful periods and rapid weight gain. I actually gained like 50 pounds in 6 months. And I was exercising, 5 days a week. I was counting my calories. I think back then I was on Weight Watchers or, whatever that was back then that was popular. And I just overall like felt absolutely horrible. And I went to my doctor, to my primary care physician, and I told her everything that was going on. And she told me, well, you need to change your diet and we'll try putting you on an IUD to see if that'll help with your period symptoms. So I was like, okay, I trust you. And then I also got like the slight shame of where she like looked at my coffee that I was drinking. I was like, oh, what's in your coffee? And I was like, Splenda. Like, it's not high calorie, okay? Like I'm counting, okay? I can only afford 1 point from my coffee. And so after I had the IUD inserted, um, well, first of all, that was horrible. I literally blacked out on the table when she put it in. It hurt so bad. I literally like blacked out. And then for the next month after, I bled so heavily every single day and was just in excruciating pain. So I called her. I was like, what is going on? I don't think this is normal. And she's like, okay, well, you need to go get an ultrasound and make sure that it's placed correctly. Maybe it's misplaced. I went and I got the ultrasound, and they found a mass on my right ovary, and they thought it was, she called it, I don't even know how to say it, like a hydrosalpinx, which is like a fluid filled elongated mass. And I was like, okay, um, sorry, I thought that I put it on Do Not Disturb. Um, and so I'm so sorry, I have to like recollect my thoughts.
You're good.
Um, So she's like, we need to monitor this. So in 3 months, we'll have you get another ultrasound, and just keep an eye on it. She's like, but the IUD is in place. That's fine. That should resolve. And so I kept it in for another 3 months, but yes, the bleeding lightened up, but like my periods became like super inconsistent. I was getting my period like every 2 weeks, and I literally just had constant pain. And so I went back in the 3 months to do another ultrasound, and it had grown. So I was like, okay, well, so what do we do now? And she's like, okay, well, let's go ahead and remove the IUD. So I did that. And my periods didn't regulate. Um my pain did not get any better. And so we did another ultrasound 3 months later, and now it had grown to 13 centimeters. So that's about the size of a softball.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so I have this thing in my body. That's probably why this hurts so much. Like, what is our next step? And she said, okay, I'm going to get you scheduled for surgery, to get this removed. So I have the surgery, and I ended up walking out of the hospital with the mass removed, but also my right ovary and fallopian tube. And honestly, I didn't even know that that was a possibility, that that was going to happen. That wasn't discussed with me, that that was a potential. And that was really crummy. So, um, after that, I was like, okay, I need to find a specialist. Like, this doctor is not the doctor for me. And I found a women's health specialist office. And when I went there, we went through everything that I was going through, and they did diagnose me with PCOS at that time. Um, so what she recommended that I do, because she asked me at the time, like, are you trying to get pregnant? And I'm like, no, not right now. Like, I'm not ready. I'm not married yet. I'm not ready to start that journey. And she's like, okay, I'm going to put you on the Depo-Provera shot. And she told me like all of the benefits that it could help me with. And I was like, okay, well, this sounds like a miracle drug. I have been in pain for a year. I am ready. I am ready. Let's do it. Um, my first lesson, okay, girl, you need to do research. Okay. Okay. So I was on it for about a year, and honestly it did help. Like, my period started to regulate. The pain was not as frequent. I would only really just have pain during like ovulation, and then my periods were horrible still, but I could deal with that. It was not every day. Then after about a year, I think it was just a little over a year, I did get married. And I was like, you know what? I think I want to start my family now. So, okay, we're gonna get off of the Depo shot. Oh my word. Oh my word, did my whole body just light on fire after getting rid of that shot. The chronic pain was insane. It was every single day. My periods were so heavy. I was bleeding through like a super tampon like every hour. And I just like overall, I felt absolutely horrible. I started gaining weight like crazy again. I mean, my whole everything was just a nightmare. Um, so over like the next couple of years, like we were consistent, like we were trying to conceive. I wasn't having regular cycles. I could never tell when I was ovulating. And no matter how much I tried, like I could not get pregnant. And then I also was going to the emergency room. At one point, it was every month because either I was having like a massive cyst rupture or just such excruciating pain that I literally thought I was going to die. So I, the last straw of that for me was I had been going to the ER and I go in and they're like, ah, you know, drug seeker. Like,
Yeah.
this is not okay. We're not going to take you seriously. Okay, go get your ultrasound. They take their time. But the last time I had went there, it was so bad. I was vomiting. I was absolutely miserable. And it was actually because I had an ovarian torsion from a massive cyst and internal bleeding. And so I had walked in and they're kind of dismissing me. And then all of a sudden it was like, okay, like this is what we have to do. We have to bring you into emergency surgery. Um, and at that point, like that's when it really hit me that, I might lose my opportunity to be able to have children. And that was super scary. Luckily the surgeon did a wonderful job, and of all of the staff, she was extremely kind and caring and like helped me through it. Um, but I was like, okay, so this can't just be PCOS. Like something is going, like what is going on in my body? Like I really need to figure this out because I can't live my life like this. So either I need to make a decision that I'm just going to like have a hysterectomy and move on with my life, or I'm going to figure out what is going on and try to fix it. And obviously I didn't want to give up. So I was just constantly like scouring the internet, and I actually came across a page on Facebook called Nancy's Nook for Endometriosis Education. And I was like, what? Like, what is this? What is endometriosis? And I read through probably every single file that was on that page. And it still exists and it has so much great information. So I advise any woman who's facing issues to just like go take a look at that. It's a free resource. And I was like, oh my God, this is me. This is me. Everything that is going on here is what I am going through. And also at that time, there was a list of the top 100 endometriosis excision surgeons like in the world listed on there. And oh my goodness, one of them was only 45 minutes away from me. Like, if that is not like the universe telling me, okay, this is your path. So I immediately called him and scheduled an appointment. He got me in super quick, which was amazing. He literally read through over 100 pages of my medical records in like just a couple of weeks. And in the exam, he asked me amazing questions and made me feel like the first doctor that made me feel like I wasn't crazy. And then he did a physical exam, and in that he pretty much pinpointed exactly where the endometriosis was. And he's like, I can't confirm a diagnosis just from a physical exam. He's like, I will have to do a laparoscopic surgery. And then at that time, I would excise um the endometriosis that's there. And I'm like, let's go. And so he got me scheduled for the surgery, which within 3 months, which also is incredible, like super quick turnaround on everything. And I had the surgery and he got everything out. I was stage 3. Um, and he was able to remove everything. So after that, I still had residual pain. And I was like, okay, like I thought I was supposed to start feeling better. I went back to him and he's like, okay, let's send you to physical therapy for pelvic floor dysfunction. And I'm like, oh, what is that now? And he's like, pretty much like your pelvic floor has been through so much trauma. It, what it's doing is it's tensing and then it doesn't know how to release. So that tensing is just causing chronic pain. And I'm like, okay, let's do this. So I did that. And all of a sudden I started like losing weight again. I was feeling better. I had energy. And this only took like 4 months for me to like actually start feeling like a human being again. And I was still like, I was no longer doing Weight Watchers. I had done my research on diet that's good for, PCOS, and not the Atkins diet, not keto, none of that stuff, because I had done that earlier on and that was just a roller coaster. Um, and I lost like 40 pounds. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, without even trying, I got pregnant. And I was pretty much thinking like, and I was kind of told like, you're not going to be able to get pregnant on your own, by doctors in the past. And I did. And it was probably one of the most exciting moments of my life when I saw that test. And so, I had my son in 2021. And after that, motherhood hit me like a sack of bricks. I had no idea what I was getting into with that. And I, so I was working from home and I didn't have maternity leave. So my job was flexible in the fact that they let me work from home while still caring for my son. Um, and my husband at the time was working night shift. So he would go to work at night and then he would come home and he would sleep all day. Meanwhile, I was working while caring for the newborn and then up all night because he was super, super colicky. Um, and that after about 4 months, I was like, I cannot do this. So I got a nanny. And then I was able to go into the office and at least not have like both of those going on at the same time. Um, but still the overnight that lasted for 2 years where my son was up every single night, sometimes up to like 13 times a night. And I was like,
Oh
okay,
my
well,
gosh.
I might die. And I was so insanely stressed out. And I'm like, what am I doing wrong here? Like, now again, like, I gained weight from my pregnancy, but I actually gained more weight after my pregnancy than during it because my body was so completely stressed out and burnt out.
Yeah.
And so I finally got to a breaking point with my husband because he was not involved. So I handled everything. I handled the mental load of everything. I handled our finances. I handled the majority of the physical load in our house, caring for our child. And I was like, why am I a single parent while I'm married? Like,
Yeah.
this is not how it's supposed to be. And on our anniversary in 2023, a very horrible thing happened that pushed me to say, okay. And I filed for divorce. So I I filed, and within 3 months, I had moved out of the house. I let him stay there. I took very little with me, just necessities to take care of my son and myself. And was like, I will just rebuild. I don't need stuff. I just need peace at this point. And I started noticing a drastic change in my body just within like a couple of weeks because I wasn't constantly sitting in that fight or flight. Um, and I noticed like my face wasn't as puffy, like my clothes felt looser. I stopped like feeling the need to like binge eat all the time. I my my HS, which I had also had throughout the whole journey, which was like an inflammatory response that I was having in my skin, that started to calm down. And I was like, okay, like this is this is great. This is starting to work, you know? And yeah, even though I was like navigating divorce and single motherhood, my nervous system was just starting to calm down. Um, then I that kind of motivated me. I was like, okay, well, I want to start getting back into the gym. I feel like I need to give my body like a good release, and movement became my number one outlet. I'll tell you what. So I started exercising. It kind of became my personality, and I lost 30 pounds. I started regulating my hormones again. Like everything in my body started to get better. But then I realized my mind was not getting better. So I pretty much like I had no short-term memory. I was completely overwhelmed by everything. I wasn't sleeping. And that actually started to lead me into engaging into unhealthy behaviors. So I started drinking and partying and looking for love in all of the wrong places. And then I would just like completely emotionally crash out afterwards. So it wasn't until April of 2025 that I said, I need to get to the root of why I keep like going in this cycle of like up and down and up and down and up and down. Not that life is linear, but these were like major drastic changes in my health, my mental health, everything. Like I couldn't keep any sort of like steadiness in my life. So I had actually seen a TikTok about somatic therapy. And I was like, I wonder if this is something that could help me. So I started looking into that. I found a an online therapist that does EMDR therapy, which is like bilateral stimulation in order to process past trauma. And I started working with her, and even within the first couple of sessions, she was able to pinpoint like that I have ADHD that I had no idea about. I have OCD, which I mean, I had joked about in the past, but I didn't really know like what it was. I was like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I need to have everything perfect all the time, you know, and that's not it. And then we started doing the bilateral stimulation practices in order to start processing my trauma for CPTSD. And with every single session that I have been able to actually go back and process these deep-rooted traumas in myself, I created reserve. So my nervous system started having more of an allowance. I wasn't, reacting on a hairpin trigger anymore to everything that was coming at me because that's life and that's going to happen. It's never going to stop. But I needed to be able to have room in there to be able to hold it and then the tools to be able to like actually process it out. So here I am now. I'm still I'm still in the gym, but like over the past year, I feel like I've made the biggest leaps and bounds in my overall health. Um, Changing my mental health also changed how I approach the rest of my life. I'm taking care of myself more. I'm prioritizing myself. I'm more inclined to make better choices for myself because I know why I resort to self-sabotaging behaviors and how those turn into really unhealthy things for my system. And I'm not perfect. I still fail. I still fall back. Like I still have seasons where I'm like, man, like why, what am I doing? But overall, like I'm so much more grounded and I just keep want I'm sorry, I just want to keep learning how I can be better to myself and my body and actually live a life that like I deserve to live.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
that was a
Oh,
lot.
that's okay. We're gonna break it down somewhere. Um,
Awesome.
no, I mean, there's so many like just recurring themes, like even on other, podcast episodes. So it's amazing that it's coming. I have other experts in like in
Yeah.
certain fields, but it's amazing coming from somebody like you who's lived it, who's
Yeah.
been through a lot, a lot.
Yeah.
Even you mentioned the IUD because like I've talked, I mean, it's such a common thing now.
It
And I was
is.
like, I don't know, when I was like that age, talking about birth control, 20s,
Right.
whatever, I feel like IUDs weren't a thing because it was like, well, if you haven't had a baby, like you really shouldn't be, but they're so
Right.
common now. And I feel like
I
nobody really
know.
talks about,
No.
that procedure and the
Yes.
discomfort that you can have along with it. Um,
Yeah.
but I mean, even, you mentioned about the ER
Yeah.
because that was my specialty. I was an ER nurse.
Yeah.
And that's part of what drew me to PCOS, to women with PCOS, and with what I do now, because I would see that. I would see them coming
Yeah.
frequently. I would see how they were treated. Um, we didn't really know like what to do with them all the time,
Right. Yeah.
and then yeah, and then like everybody else that comes in, like you said, once a month, it gets to a point where you're like, okay, what do they want?
What do they
Like
want?
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. I mean, so you
What I love most about Jessa's story is that it reminds us healing rarely happens because of one medication, one surgery, one diet, or one perfect solution. Healing often comes from putting the pieces together, advocating for yourself, finding the right healthcare team, supporting your nervous system, reducing inflammation, honoring your body's signals, and giving yourself grace throughout the whole process. If today's conversation resonated with you, I hope it encourages you to keep asking questions, keep listening to your body, and remember that you deserve to feel well. You are not too complicated, and you are never alone in this journey. A huge thank you to Jessa for sharing her story so openly and so vulnerably. And I know her experience is going to help so many women feel seen, validated, and hopeful. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd be so grateful if you'd share it with a friend or leave a rating and review. Every share helps us reach another woman who's looking for answers and reminds her that healing is possible. And if you're looking for even more education, encouragement, and practical tools to support your journey, be sure to join my Healthy Ever After community, where you'll find women walking this journey together, resources, recipes, and more podcast episodes just like this. The link is in the show notes for you. Until next time, remember, your body isn't broken, it's communicating. Nourish it, listen to it, trust it, and know that healing doesn't happen overnight, but every small step matters. I'm sending you so much love, and I'll see you on the next episode of PCOS Unfiltered. Nourish, heal, thrive.